All right, boys, let's go.
It's another Wednesday, which means it is another Northeast Offshore report from On the Water. Anthony DiCicci and Jimmy Fee here to talk about what's happening on the Northeast tuna grounds this week. We're hitting kind of the pinnacle of the tournament season right now with the White Marlin Open happening this week. Next, we have the Mid-Atlantic, and those are the two biggest money tournaments. The White Marlin Open is actually the richest tournament that we see every year. I think it's the richest billfish tournament in the entire world in terms of payouts. One funny post I saw ahead of the White Marlin Open was somebody showed a drone shot of all the big sport fishers in the marina getting ready to fish on Sunday. The first fishing day was Monday, and they said the stormtroopers were assembling. And looking at that top down, you know, you have kind of the big white boat with the visor there. I'm not a big Star Wars guy.
Never seen one in my life.
You're so full of shit.
I've never seen a Star Wars movie. Swear to God.
Are you bragging? Is that a brag?
Well, it's gotten to the point where like.
If you've gotten 42 and you haven't seen one, then you gotta get all the way.
Exactly. Now I'm just like boycotting.
Do you know what a stormtrooper is?
I
so
do.
The ones with the white helmets and the
Yeah.
black visors. It actually really fits well for the big sport fishers. I thought that was kind of funny. But interesting about this White Marlin Open, because of the offshore forecast, they extended the fishing days by 2 days. It was going to end on Friday in terms of the fishing. Now it's going all the way out to Sunday, August 10th. And right now, we record this on Tuesday. This is August 5th. You're going to see it on Wednesday. So there's been 1 day of fishing. Some boats did go out and brave the 6-foot seas to get out there. And not a ton of fish were caught, but some very impressive fish were caught. So as of this recording, we have 1 full day of fishing in for the White Marlin Open. There are boats out there fishing now on Tuesday. And we'll give a full picture of what happened in the White Marlin Open in next week's report. But so far, on Monday, 128 of the 286 registered boats braved the 4 to 6 foot seas, got out there and went fishing. The fishing was okay. I wouldn't say it was great, but for a couple boats, it was extremely good. One boat in particular, it was very good. Leading as of today, as of Tuesday, is a 929-pound blue marlin. That's got to be the biggest we've heard. I mean, you don't hear of the weights because people really don't keep the big marlin outside of these tournaments, but 929 pounds caught aboard the Barbara B out of Maryland. That's leading, and that crew is looking at a $4 million payday right now. Now, there haven't been any white marlin weighed in yet. There have been 58 caught and released as of Monday. Expect that number to go way up. But that is the big money fish for this tournament. It's a White Marlin Open for a reason. So the biggest white marlin will take home the biggest check, but if no white marlin are weighed in, that big blue is going to take home all the money.
Dude, I would be plugging in every fan up and down the coast and just aiming it offshore if I had that on day one as, you know, the clubhouse leader. Like, that is way to come out firing. That's sick.
That's a tough position to be in. The day one leader, knowing that, especially when it's going to take an 80-pound white marlin, is going to significantly cut into your payday. The leading tuna right now is only 52.5 pounds. There's actually a tie for that, a boat out of Cape May, New Jersey, and a boat out of Texas. A boat out of Texas is called the Sea Student, which is a great name.
That's a phenomenal name.
You're probably a Sea Student.
I was. I did just enough to get by.
But no way a 52-pound tuna takes it. Somebody's going to pop a big eye, and that's going to take the money for that. And, man, there's a lot of fishing left to do. As we said earlier, it's extended by 2 days. So the people in the Barbara B have to wait 2 extra days to see if that 929-pound blue holds up. That's a really big fish. It's going to take an enormous fish to top that, at least in the blue marlin category. When I was looking into this, I saw that the White Marlin Open actually has a White Marlin bourbon, which I thought was interesting. I don't see White Marlin as a bourbon fish. Are they a bourbon fish to you?
No.
No, they're a rum fish, right?
Yeah,
I would think rum for
sure.
them. But anyhow, there's a White Marlin bourbon out there if you're a bourbon guy and you feel like White Marlin are a bourbon fish.
That's forced. That's a rum fish.
It's absolutely a rum fish.
1,000%.
New Jersey, moving up there and moving inshore a little bit. I talked to Mike Gleason at Tack Waterman out of Long Branch. He said the boats are still hammering away at those yellowfin tuna off New Jersey on jigs and poppers. There's been more bluefin in the mixing it out there, some smaller bluefin. The inshore bluefin bite, the one that they had at Little Italy, seems to be slowing up a little bit. But they are seeing more bluefin mix in with the yellows a little bit further offshore. Jigs that are hot are the UVT jigs. Those seem to be hearing a ton about them up and down the coast this year. And, man, if you look at the evolution of tuna jigs, at least here in the Northeast over the last couple of years, we've really kind of landed on these small, compact but slender jigs to imitate sand eels. Remember the first butterfly jigs where they were long and flat? Mm-hmm. And nobody seems to really fish those anymore. It started with the Nomad Streaker jigs, I want to say maybe 6-7 years ago. The Northeast Offshore Report is brought to you by Okuma Fishing Tackle. Whether you're battling big game offshore or casting from the shore, Okuma gear is built to perform when it matters most. Learn more at akumafishingusa.com.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't know that those, I felt like those fish were better when they're herring or even mackerel. Like they didn't have the same juice that that the slender jigs have. And these fish are all full of sand eels when you open them up, you know what I mean? So it makes sense. And UVT came out of left field, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a company out of Connecticut.
Yeah,
passionate fishermen.
Super cool story behind it. I'm not gonna spill the beans, but there's some pretty cool news coming out of that camp that we'll be part of in weeks to come. So I'm gonna leave that cliffhanger there. But
am I gonna have to wait weeks, or you can tell me off camera?
I'll tell you off camera.
All right,
Jim.
Sounds good. One other thing, another note on jigs. At ICAST, and we did it doing a podcast recapping ICAST that's going to go this Thursday. One of the coolest things that I actually forgot to mention, so I was writing about the jigs and preparing for this report, there are companies making jigs for the West Coast tuna fishing, for that Southern California one, making them out of tungsten as opposed to lead. It's because their tuna tend to get on really small baits and can be really tough to fool with traditional size jigs. So a tungsten jig, which is going to cost you $50 a pop, if not more, is smaller. It's going to sink fast, get down to these fish, but it matches the profile while still having the weight to get down to them. Thought that was pretty neat.
Yep.
Tungsten jigs, as if I need to spend more money on tuna jigs. That's something to keep in mind, and that kind of leads into what we've seen on our local tuna grounds here in southern New England. A finicky fish the last couple days.
That's been kind of par for the course with the tuna fishing. I mean, we stumbled into one of those off days, but like there's been plenty of fish around. There hasn't been a ton of bites to go around. Has been the issue.
So the most recent report we have from somebody here in the office would be Monday. Matt Hefner was out there, and he, our assistant editor, and he does the striper migration reports. If you tuned into those at all over the spring. He was out there, said they marked fish all day, tons of fish. And for the percentage of fish they marked versus the bites they had one hit, and it was as they were dropping a Ronzi. He said the radio chatter said almost all the bites the guys were getting were on dead stick Ronzis.
The skunk buster.
So it's part of that, I think, is the crowds.
Yeah.
You have had tuna sitting in one area for several weeks. It's close to shore. You had a weekend of just pristine weather, and that weather's not breaking. We're going to have great weather right through the weekend. I mean, calm winds, calm seas. These tuna are going to see a lot of jigs. They're going to see a lot of poppers, a lot of trolled lures. They're going to be feeling a lot of pings from sonars. So trying to fight these finicky fish and get them to bite is going to be kind of the theme, I think, for the next few days out there.
The guys down south have had it pretty well made. I mean, I talked to... I got a report from Captain Ben Burdine of Apex Angling. He's in the Connecticut area. He's hitting the grounds, south of Montauk and Block Island. He said schoolie bluefin fishing remains very good. The typical spots are still holding bait life in bluefin. A few larger 70-inch class have been taken, and even more have been lost and chafed off. It seems that 120 to 220-gram knife jigs in glow and natural colors are producing the majority of schooling fish, but soft plastics like the Rons and the NLBN are outproducing some days, especially with larger bluefin. He said poppers have still been effective around schools of porpoises, as well as blind casting. There's still some topwater tuna feeds, but it's a bit few and far between these days. So keeping an eye out for float salmon in conjunction with warmer surface temps, as they have averaged an above class of mahi around, like over 30-inch mahis.
To build on Matt Hefner's report, he said they saw tons of mahi yesterday, big schools of them, and big. He said a lot of them looked like they were in that 10 to 15 pound class. Very picky. He said it was very tough to even turn their head and get them to chase, let alone get them to eat.
I thought you were going to call his eye out for sizing fish. You had that look on your face where it was. I thought it was going in that direction, but
people can say a mahi's any size they
dude,
want.
Mahi are tough. Mahi are tough to judge the size of. I feel like they're one of the toughest. When you see one, they always appear. It's just so weird. They either appear way bigger or way smaller than they are, and I don't know why that is.
I think it's because of the clarity of the water where you're seeing them.
Yeah.
I think you look at them and you see this small kind of
deep,
blue shape, and you're like, if it's 15 feet down, it's going to be way bigger than you expect.
Yeah, exactly.
But he saw them, and I think another product of the picky mahi is that you have tough tuna days, and guys are trying to put something in the box, and whatever's floating out there, a buoy. You know what? I haven't checked in the last 2 trips I went down there, and I want to do this, but the tuna fishing was tough enough, but left enough hope that you might get one that I hate the mahi transition. It is my least favorite part of every tuna trip when you're like, okay, let's go hit some floating stuff. I haven't looked at the windmills. I haven't been up close to the windmills to see if there's mahi hanging on them. Now there's so many of them to choose from. You could really spend weeks out there before you cover each one.
I don't know if they have enough trash on them yet. Like, I don't know if they're mature enough with enough growth and all that stuff. They should hold them, but like, I don't know. I've always looked for the dirtiest pots I could find, right? And the windmills are seemingly clean. I haven't been underneath, to get a view of one from below, but like, those barnacles have to start, they have to be starting to kind of ramp up, and they're just going to get more and more growth. I would expect them to have them, but I did take some casts looking for mahi at like the 2 that we happened real close by. Nobody was home. Dude, it was like a check cast. Like, I wasn't even expecting to catch one. I literally had like a quarter-ounce jig that I would with a paddle tail from smallie fishing on my rod that I brought for fun and fire that out there.
You just bank shot it off the
right off
the monopile there, yeah.
Yeah, and then I hooked I hooked the rope to the buoy ball on a high flyer and just snapped the hook right off of it.
Well, some commercial fisherman will be cursing your name when he puts that in his hand.
The Northeast Offshore Report is brought to you by SiriusXM Marine. Fish mapping is SiriusXM Marine's most comprehensive plan and is available on your boat's display and includes access on your phone or tablet via the fish mapping app. Serious anglers use every advantage available, and SiriusXM marks the spots where bait fish gather and game fish hunt. Learn more at SiriusXM.com/fish mapping. I talked to Captain Chris from Keeping It Real Fishing, Keeping It Real Sport Fishing. He's also out of that Connecticut area. He said after coming off multiple trips in a row with 20-plus bluefins landed per trip, they were excited to return to the tuna grounds after that strong northeast blow. As expected, the fish were more scattered immediately after the blow. Then flat seas and good reports attracted massive fleets and a very slow bite. Things definitely had slowed from the previous week, but there's an incredible amount of fish around still, and I fully anticipate things to ramp back up very soon. He has a feeling that they're on micro baits, and that the blow may have pushed around pushed them around and made them less interested in our offerings. He said the producing baits for them have been the UVT Pink Glow in 180 and 220 and the 10-inch Pink Rons.
The Pink Rons has been a killer. Your guys' big fish you had last week, you can hear all about that in our podcast too. The blow-by-blow, the painful for me blow-by-blow of that trip was on White Rons, correct?
White and pink.
White and pink. Okay.
White and pink.
But going back to, okay, you've got good weather. You've got picky fish. You want to go out there and do the light tackle tuna thing. How do you cope with that? What's the move right now?
All right. This is what I would suggest. I say that you go out there and you find a stretch, right, that, is productive. Maybe it's between 2 spots. Don't go to the fleet. Don't go to where it's just a parking lot, because that pressure always impacts the bite.
Let's say it mostly impacts the bite.
Mostly.
Because we were very hot to trot last Wednesday. We went out and we were going to find our own fish. Mm-hmm. And we had reports and we were triangulating. Let's see if we get on them ourselves. But if we had just spun up the radar and been like, there's the big fleet, gone into that, boats in there were doing double digits.
So here's my take on that, right? Like, sometimes a bite, because of maybe the pressure, maybe there's other conditions, can be like you have to be there in the dark and you get bit during gray light and then it breaks apart. We've seen that happen. And then we've gone on to kind of like bookend the day with a, short jog to being by ourselves and firing off a great popper bite, right? So the opposite, I think, happens when you just set out to do your own thing. And I think this last trip, and it's funny, a Sharpie, who you respect their opinion as much as I do, kind of confirmed it back at the ramp, right? So we go out, and by accident, we had stopped in an area that was nowhere near our destination, wasn't where we were planning on fishing, any of that stuff.
This is all part of your great deception.
Right? So we saw some small life. It was enough to stick around. We were about to push on, and we doubled up on giants, like 76-inch class
so
fish,
large
right?
mediums, technically, but yeah.
Well, true. But they were giants to us because
I'm not giving
we
you
couldn't
giants.
keep one, right? So 320-gram UVT in like that green color.
320?
Smoked the first. Yeah, I went heavy because leading up to that trip, all the bites were like real tight to the bottom. So I was just going to kind of pound the bottom with it. And then I marked a wolf pack. I started ripping it up like four pumps up, got smoked. Then the rods went off that somebody was working up in the bow, and we doubled up. So that happened, and then we dealt with our fish. My buddy had his commercial license. It was with Kona Sport Fishing and that crew. And you can listen to the podcast for the play-by-play, but we killed that fish. It took us a while to get fishing again. And then we look at the sounder, and it's like, boom, there's some more marks. There's no boats near us, anywhere near us. And drop down again, boom, fish on the jig, fish on the rods, fish. Like, we had a steady pick of fish. We never left a 4-windmill quadrant of fish, and we were by ourselves the entire day.
But what was it that the Sharpie, the respected anonymous Sharpie you mentioned, confirmed?
So I get back to the dock, and I see Dom Petrarca from Coastal Sport Fishing, right? Tuna legend. And he's like, hey, what's up, man? How you been? I'm like, good. What have you been up to? I asked him. I poked around for some yellowfin intel. And he was like, no, I was chasing down bluefin today. He's like, there's so many fish out there. It's ridiculous. He's like, these people that go to these fleets, crazy. He's like, literally, you can set adrift anywhere from 100 feet to 200 feet out there. Just be patient. You're going to drift over fish, and they're going to bite when you show them something to eat. He's like, you go in the fleet. He's like, you got yahoos running around. You're yelling at this guy. It's great. He's like, they don't want any of that. He's like, just find your own stretch, set adrift. Be patient. It's going to happen.
I've Thursday morning quarterbacked my whole trip last Wednesday we were seeing fish. We were getting a couple bites. We left that to better reports in a big fleet. If we stuck that out, are we scraping together at least enough fish to make it a decent day? I don't know.
I got a good idea, Jim. You should have listened to your buddy Cheech that was like literally feverishly trying to get you guys to come over to where I was.
Look, we don't need to go down this road again. You want to hear me and Cheech fight about who was right and who was wrong about, let's call it your deception. You were going to... That's enough. We covered this in the podcast. Kevin moderated, then Liam moderated Kevin's moderation on it. You can see that on this Thursday in the On the Water podcast. But yellowfin. You had a plan to go look for yellowfin. You used your fish mapping app, saw some good-looking water for yellows.
Yep.
Jersey has had at this point, it's got to be a month-long yellowfin bite that's been sitting out there.
Yep.
Why aren't we hearing about that now? Is everybody got the bluefin blinders on, and they're not making it past the gully and Tuna Ridge to go find some yellowfin in the dump, or further southeast? Is that what's happening?
People are looking. I think, for one, I think people that are finding it are quiet about it, and I don't think anything's been going on with much consistency. Like I mentioned, Dom from Coastal, like he had a good 3 or 4 days out north out in south of the dump in the lanes, maybe just shy of the lanes, where it was pretty good, but it dried up just as quick as it materialized. You just got to kind of run around and check.
But if you're someone like me, if things are going well, I get one tuna fish a week. Let's call it one tuna trip a week. And let's say maybe 2 a month if things aren't going well. You want to make the most of that trip. It is tough to roll the dice totally and explore then. So it is tough to kind of pull yourself away from that fleet. and find your own fish. Yes and no.
So our game plan originally was we were going to run long, and the sea conditions were aggravating. They weren't unbearable or anything like that. We could have still gone, but it was just like, this isn't really worth it. So we ended up pulling the plug on it. But the plan all along was to go and just basically run that line. Like, would that water look good, see if it was clean, see if it had life, and stick around long enough to see if we could get into a yellowfin bite. On the way back was several different bluefin known destinations that people were catching fish and leaving them biting. So, like, for me, I'm not bypassing one of those, got to be there at gray light, to go and look. And on the way back, I'm at least going to, have a real legitimate shot at still hooking a bluefin or multiple bluefin. And what did you miss? You didn't miss anything. If you end up finding the yellowfin, great. If you come back in and you get to learn from everybody's morning on what's been happening and what's been going on, and next thing you know, it's like, all right, I got my bluefin. I kind of you know me. I'm always trying to get more into the day than might make sense sometimes.
You try to pack a lot into a 12-hour trip.
But if you don't go and look, how are you going to know?
No, it's true. But you face that if you aren't a guy who's going out multiple times a week, if you're not a charter captain who's there every day to have the pulse of it.
All the more reason to run around and go try to do everything all at once.
It is true. Sometimes you just have to be willing to take the risk and explore. And I can't wait for the next chance to get out there and do that. And don't get blinded by the reports, by the good reports. Use your eyes, use your nose, use your ears.
Pick things apart that look good. See it through. And don't worry that there's nobody there.
And sometimes be willing for that to bite you in the rear end a little bit.
But if you're not seeing the tuna signs, right, then you got to keep moving until you find something worth fishing. But if it's there, in your I feel like you got a better chance of getting bites when you're working fish all by yourself.
We had the signs. We were all by ourselves. We had whales. We had some birds. Looking back, I kind of wish, either that you'd called us in on the radio so we could have come to that bite, and two, that we'd stuck out where we were. We got to the fleet as it was ending. As the fleet had really grown, the fish were really shutting off. I wish we had just played out. We were marking them. We were getting bites. It was sparse, but we were seeing fish. And I wish we had just seen that through, maybe ignored those reports of the double-digit catches, because we'd already missed it. At that point, once a boat's got 15 fish, how many more are they really going to do? Is that bite going to continue all day? Maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Anyhow, that's all I've got.
Well, I'm still mad that I broke my cardinal rule of putting lat long numbers over the radio, but that's beside the point. That was when I was busy not calling you guys in. But without further ado, we're going to turn things over to the Canyon Runner crew, who does an amazing job of running up and down the coast, inside and outside, to give you guys a full breakdown of everything that you could want to know on the offshore scene. But before we go there, I almost forgot to get a report in from Captain Bob up in New Hampshire. Seacoast, New Hampshire sport fishing. He's always great with a quick in and out on the report. He said the bait and weight bite has settled in. Sanctum and Northern Jeffries have given up a steady stream of true giants. That's a little bit of a change, because that tournament that just happened was at Newburyport, I think, last week. There was very few fish caught up until the last day. I'm not really sure how it finished. I was sick. I missed that week's report and didn't follow up on that. But I know up until the last day there was like one boat that had 2 fish. Live whiting was best, but mackerel are working too. Sanctum gets the nod, owing to half the distance to Jeffries and much fewer sharks. On that front, still largely a ton of poor beagles. So the wreck bite, he said, centered just offshore of the Isles of Shoals on that Pogey-centric deal, has cooled some, and can't help but wonder if the 2 super seiners targeting Pogies, working just over the line in federal waters for the last 2 weeks, has caused that bite to kind of break apart. He said slightly further north, some wrecked fish and small giants are coming from Boone Island, along with some stud striped bass. There's lots of mackerel there too. Almost forgot to get to that one, so I'm happy I remembered. But now we can kick things over to the Canyon Runner crew. Catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. The Offshore Report is also brought to you by Canyon Runner, who will provide a very detailed synopsis of the fishing throughout our coverage area. The Canyon Runner Sport Fishing Team is here to help you catch fish. They offer coaching and concierge services, seminars, and the Canyon Runner Map, powered by VM, which will exponentially help increase your catches inshore, midshore, and out in the canyons. The report they provide gives you a sampling of how the Canyon Runner Map works, which serves as your co-captain, providing all the fish catching and safety intel, including a built-in warning system and more. It gives you the ability to track over 600 member boats and 24 pro staffers in real time. Check them out at www.canyonrunner.com. And if you want to take the Canyon Runner map for a quick test ride, you can download the CR Map app from your app store and use it free of charge for 2 weeks. Your free access will be limited to boats within 10 miles of land, but it'll give you access to all the features to decide for yourself if it is right for you.
All right, Jimmy and Cheech, how about that? We're into August already. Season's really like getting into, well, we're kind of past the peak of it, I would say. And looking at this map, we're actually entering the peak of the tropical Atlantic hurricane season. You can see one low pressure system here. Talk a little bit about the weather first. Well, we were dealing with some nasty weather towards the end of last week due to this massive high pressure system over the United States. You know what I'm going to do here? We actually went over a big landmark this week. We have over 600 members now. We have a new setting here to cluster the boats together. It's going to speed up the map. But want to thank everyone. We're just so honored to have that many folks that signed up. And let's get off to the races here. So now all these dots are just clusters of boats that are close together. But what happened this week is this massive high pressure system over Canada pushed this front down to Florida, which is very unusual. The fronts don't go that far down to Florida, but we kept having these low pressure systems just run across. As you can see, this happened since Thursday, actually. This is just another one of them. This one might be the strongest. It might spin up to a tropical system today. What it actually did was this: constant northeast wind and a northeast fetch. Now, you can see it right here. It is, if I put on the buoys and I look at some of these boats, we can actually see 4 foot 2 Cs, 5 seconds. That's pretty nasty. So we can see what's going on down here. These are boats fishing. The only reason they're out in seas like that, they're fishing the White Marlin Open. But it's pretty rough here because there was this line that basically today on Monday runs like right about here. This boat, the Shore thing, he's in 4 foot seas out here in West Atlantis, but right up in here is pretty nice. And it's literally like a lake all up in this area. You can see this pocket. The swell carries it, and even the swell kind of lets up. If this thing grows into a big storm, those swells are going to have a lot more energy. There'll be a lot more swells carrying forward. But in the short of it, this week's look like Monday, Tuesday are fishable. Wednesday, we start to get, look at this, another hard east fetch. I mean, it's northeast 13. It's going to probably blow out, unfortunately, for most of these areas down here, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going to be dealing in the same type of weather phenomenon that we did this week. You might be able to fish close to the beach. And as we go over this and as we go over the reports, there's plenty of good fish in here. And then what we have is a 30% chance of another storm forming down here. You could see this rotation. It was 50% last night. It's 30% now. It could form and come up the coast. We'll keep our eye on that for next weekend. But for now, Monday, Tuesday, everywhere. Wednesday, Thursday, potentially up to north is fishable. Let's look at some water temperature charts. So what we have here with our water temp, we're going to look back Saturday, very similar water to what we had all week. And you could see where here's an eddy out here. And there's really good fishing out this way. This is a true Gulf Stream eddy. Then we have pockets of blue water that pushed in. And you could see where this boat was. This was on the 30th. He was fishing in 77-degree water. All right, he was actually fishing this water. This water, that was on the 30th. In 3 days, the water went from here to over here. You could see this is where it's 77 now. So this is just the track lines from the 30th. You're pretty decent fishing. I believe he had double digits on yellowfin and 2 big eyes in this water. Some boats had up to 6, 7 big eyes in this water. And then it's pushed here. So you're just going to move with the water as you come down the edge. Well, a couple other minor things. You could see these fingers of bluer water pushing up. Guys are constantly trying and praying and hoping yellowfin finally push inshore. They just haven't yet. Here's another little pocket of blue water, not nearly as productive. Here we have a pocket of blue water that would be and should be productive. But as we'll discuss in a second, the fishing is just so good up in this area. There's no reason look, there's no track lines. This is from the 30th to the 3rd. There's nobody in the Hudson Canyon except for the Fortuna runner stopped here in the middle of the night, jigged a couple fish, but they were just at the tip because they were really fishing up this area. As we go down, we just didn't, that front that we talked about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, was sitting over all these waters. So we have no clear shots from down here. What we know is there's fingers of blue water out here. There's boats fishing in it today. This pocket of blue water that pushed down is what some boats are going to look for in here. Boats in the Wilmington are primarily going to be big eye fishing. We see these boats on the 100 fathom line because the marlin fishing's actually been there's no like real finger of great blue water. The marlin fishing's been good in 80 to 100 fathoms. You'll see a lot of that for the tournament. Anyway, the water situation is it such that like it's very odd. And some of it is this: it's August. There should be an eddy, a true eddy, somewhere in here. This would be the first year that I go back on records and we haven't had an eddy come through any of these canyons yet. This is not an eddy. This is just fingers of blue water. So it's a very weird year because we'll start talking about the reports, and we're not going to cover anything down here this week, guys, because nobody fished. Nobody's fished since like Tuesday down here. It was horrible. Today's the first day on Monday, and they're fishing the tournament, so we're not going to get into it. But the fishing down here has also been horrible, and we know that we don't expect it to change much. As we come up the line, though, what we had, even with no good water, is from down to this area. This is the coal wrecks down here. Here's the toms. From basically down here through the triple wrecks. Then as you get closer to the tip of the canyon, but it's due north of the canyon. It's actually due east of the Bacardi, all this area. And as we zoom in, you can see the track line after track line after track line. There's been fish. I'm going to pull us off to another map. I'm going to take the water temperature off of this one so we can see better. There has been fish in pockets of different areas. Now up here is the Virginia, the Bacardi's here. If I screw them out some more, here's the Virginia, here's the Maiden Creek. There's fish here, there's fish here. There's fish east of the Bacardi, there's fish up here. There's fish all in this area. And what we've seen now is it's all yellowfin. It's like 10 to 1 yellowfin to bluefins. And it was very, very good. In fact, over the weekend, because we had the weather issue and because the weather was ebbing and flowing, only the guys that really poked their noses out and like tried to look, and this was Sunday, got there. It was only a handful of boats, and they all did quite well. But it hasn't moved. It's been since before 4th of July, really the last week of June. This was the first really productive area, and it's kind of held serve for that long. We're going to move inshore a little bit. This is, quote, the lanes, fishing in the lanes. This, where you can barely see it, is Little Italy. There has been 60 to 75 inch fish in here for 3 weeks. Now, last week, what happened? The 40 to 45 inch, and it's all bluefins. They showed up and the squid showed up. There's squid right on the bottom. You drop down, jig, get a live squid, you catch fish that way. But a lot of guys are just catching trolling. And a lot of guys are going out there afternoon. You're talking 15 miles from a lot of these inlets. You'd see the majority of this is from Manasquan, but we guys coming up from Barnegat. We got guys coming from Sandy Hook and Long Island. You can catch a fish or two here in the afternoon. It's so close, the crowd can pose a problem, but I'm sure today, like any boat in there without a crowd is usually getting 1 or 2 now. And they're 40-inch fish, they're 45-inch fish, not the trophies, the 60 to 75-inch fish that people are going for. But that was, a 30-boat fleet would catch 5 of those. Now we're seeing almost everybody catch 1, which is real nice because it's so close. And that's going to help us with the weather later this week as we deal with another east blow. This is close enough and north enough, guys are going to be able to fish it. Unfortunately, there's just not much going on in here, and you can see all the track lines. There's plenty of people looking. Here's the Coimbra. What we've had, and you see these couple pockets, we have had fish 10 to 15 miles offshore Shinnecock and Mauritius. It's not a lot. It's kind of the same exact thing down here, and it's not a shocker. It's the same depth. It's like one fish per boat if they put in a half day's effort, but it's so close. If you can't go, if you don't have much time, there's no reason not to do it. This is close as well, but this is much better. Habs, CIA grounds, Inner Butterfish Hole, and down to the Ranger. This all kind of, I don't want to say it turned on, but it was good enough. If on Sunday we dealt with a 300 boat fleet over here, which this is the Gully area and Tuna Ridge, it was insane. The boats that played it smart, they were headed this way and they just made a turn. They came down and fished here. There's pretty good fishing there for the first time Saturday and Sunday in a while. But the long and short of it is this. If we zoom out, this is quote unquote the best fishing on the map because it's so close. You're 10 miles from Block Island. You're 15 miles from Montauk. You're not that far from the Vineyard, from Point Judith, all these areas. There are a ton of bluefins, and yes, it is only bluefins. Every day, 10 people ask about yellowfins. It's only bluefins. And then it's the big bluefins. The best of the best of the best of the giant bluefin action is over here. Live bait, obviously predominantly the best, but this is, for whatever reason, all the giants are holding in this one area right here. There's a few smaller fish here, but this is where you can have action. We had boats in the double digits when there wasn't a crowd, and we've had fish here. Again, this is before 4th of July weekend, just great fishing. As we come south of the Vineyard and southwest of Nantucket, there's White Marlin here finally. A couple good days towards the middle to the end of last week. A little slower yesterday, but we'll have people looking now. This is usually, as everyone knows that does this, it's a 3 or 4 week at most, more like a 2 to 3 week fishery. But all those whites, we talked about a little bit, they were out in these deep canyons. They migrate right in here. You got a lot of bigger whites. It's a lot of good fishing. It's live bait fishing, but some good stuff. As we get out to the canyons, we talked about this already. The big eddies out here, just lights out fishing on the backside of the eddy if you can get to it. We're moving back up the coast. Want to spend a little bit of time here. The giant, it never quote unquote turned on. I mean, part of it is the fish, the giants are kind of stuck here. All the bluefins are stuck here. There's bluefins tight to New Jersey. You're not seeing the schoolie fish here. They're just not here. There are giant fishing, Crab's Ledge, Regal Sword. There were days last week where it was pretty darn good. There was days last week at the Regal that everyone got a bite. Crab's Ledge been's good. Stellwagen and Jeffrey started to have a pick of fish. There was a tournament up this way. Congratulations to our pro staff on the Four Seas. They placed in the tournament. They had fished 4 days. They got 4 bites. You could see where they fished during the tournament. All these spots, they got bites. So long and short of it, it's really good fishing for most of the fleet, except, sorry to say, the folks to the south. Hopefully this is your week, folks. I mean, I want to wish good luck to everyone in the White Marlin Open. It's a big week. It's a major tournament. Even with probably the worst weather they ever had, they're still looking at over $7 million in prize money. And good luck to everyone fishing that one. Jimmy and Cheech, back to you. And hope everyone has a great week of fishing this week. And let's keep our fingers crossed we don't see a lot of that tropical storm activity, because it is now getting into the prime of the season. We got like 85% of the hurricane season ahead of us, and we're going to keep our eyes on the tropics every one of these calls going forward. Take care, folks. Have a great week.